Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Road to Recovery for the Southern Gold Coast. My name is Zac, and today we're talking about the road ahead for the newly adopted Gold Coast City Council budget. As many of you would know, very recently the Gold Coast City Council voted to adopt the city budget for the next financial year. Mayor Tom Tate has said that this budget is responsible under unprecedented times. Others are going a little bit further in the community and saying that it's the most constructive budget we've had in years. And of course, I would say most definitely it's one of the most historic, as we're seeing the Gold Coast City Council react financially to an international crisis. So this is really a big deal. Of course, joining us today is one of those 14 councillors who voted to adopt the budget. It's the southernmost city councillor. It's the councillor for Division 14, Gail O'Neill. Gail, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks, Zac. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. So today we are doing our interview via Microsoft Teams. So please bear with us if there's any sort of jolting in the video. So, Councillor, let's get straight into it because there is some big pressing questions. This is a very important city budget to a lot of people. So there's a big question as to what this city budget actually looks like on the ground and where does it take our city in the road to recovery. Would you mind explaining that?
Well, I would agree with our mayor. It's had to be a very responsible budget, and that's, addressing the impact that COVID-19 has had on our city. But we still have to continue to deliver the essential services that are so important to our lifestyle. So, and I'm very happy that the budget contains a $26.9 million support package for both residents and business community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely you can see there a potential for the City Council to support a lot of small businesses. So that leads perfectly into my next question, which is what support does this budget actually offer small business operators who are doing it tough? And how can these business operators take that opportunity?
Okay, so what we're looking at now is I think businesses need to have a little bit of relief with special rates levies. And as you know, 3 of our big business centres have had a special levy with the 3 tourism alliances, the Surfers Paradise, Broadbeach and Southern Gold Coast, levying for tourism and events support. Now that will be actually waived in the 2021 budget. So we're talking about 11,500 properties not being levied with that levy. Also not increasing the tourism levy either. And that probably covers around about 26,000 properties and businesses on the Gold Coast. We're looking at also roadside dining fees being waived, and I think that's a huge one for the city centres, especially places like Surfers Paradise and Broadbeach. And of course, it goes down all the coastline and even in some of the inner suburbs as well. So all of those fees will be waived for 2021. And I know that we don't look at them sometimes as businesses, but we're also doing a 1 year's rent relief for liquor licence holders at surf and sports clubs. That's 41 organisations across the city. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's massive. And I could understand there's probably a few small businesses on the Southern Gold Coast probably very happy, even potentially cheering to hear that. So well done for that. What about these sort of larger infrastructure projects? We've just gone through an election where the light rail was a key issue being discussed on the Southern Gold Coast. Some may argue that this is important, this infrastructure for the future. Some may say it's not. So how much was actually allocated to these sorts of large infrastructure projects and why is that so important?
Well, I think it's very important to actually have large infrastructure projects that are shovel ready, that start them off, will provide employment going forward. And that's where local government has a great role to play to make sure that we can provide jobs going forward. We've got $35.4 million for the completion of the city's new art gallery, $40.6 million for the new Pimpamar Sports Hub, $8.4 million for the renewal of Miami Aquatic Centre. $1.6 million will go to an Olympic standard skate park, and that's to attract international competition at Pizzey Park, Miami. $2.2 million for the first stage of the redevelopment of the Palm Beach Aquatic Centre. $4 million for the redevelopment of the Broadbeach Community Centre. $18.7 million for a new and improved active transport infrastructure, and we're talking about walkways, shared pathways, And of course, the big one, of course, is $24.3 million for road rehabilitation over the next 12 months. But as far as the transport goes, $8.9 million contribution to state government towards light rail stage 3. That's Broadbeach to Burleigh. And I'm very happy to say that we actually increased our contribution for funding for stage 4 of the light rail, and that was contribution of $1.75 million, and that stage 4 will take us from Burleigh to Coolangatta.
Well, that's big. That's very exciting.
So also, just to let you know too, Zac, when we're talking about large infrastructure projects, we're also talking about investing in the cultural precinct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very important that we do that. So and that's like $34 million into the arts, the new arts gallery that'll come up on board. $15.5 million we're going to Destination Gold Coast to promote our city, and that's going to be very important, especially over the next 6 months.
Yeah, and promoting our city is a big deal. So when we look at connecting Southern Gold Coast, this was key in driving visitation to the Southern Gold Coast, in addition to staging some large-scale community events. With the role into major Gold Coast events, what does this budget do, and what will the Gold Coast City Council be doing to ensure that the Southern Gold Coast specifically is actively promoted?
Okay. Well, as you know, the three entities, Surfers Paradise Alliance, Broadbeach Alliance, and Connecting Southern Gold Coast, have all amalgamated as from the 1st of July. There will be no, as I said previously, there'll be no levies levied against any businesses for major events Gold Coast, but $9.7 million will be funded for the operating budget for major events Gold Coast, because they will have to plan for the events for next year. So that's really important for the city, and especially for Southern Gold Coast. Look, I was a Chamber of Commerce president when Connecting Southern Gold Coast actually was born, and that was 12 years ago. I supported Connecting Southern Gold Coast, and I still support the concept. What actually happened with Connecting Southern Gold Coast, so we not only had the KPIs of actually running events in Southern Gold Coast, we also had an economic development aspect to it, where there was support for business and promotion of business. Now, I feel there will be a little bit of a gap there, but I'm hoping that the Economic Development and Innovation Department within Council itself will give us a dedicated officer to take up that space.
Lovely. So tell me, what can local business do now to prepare for the future? We've got a brand new budget. What should I be doing right now to get ready for this road to recovery?
Okay. Well, can I first say that I congratulate some of the businesses that have actually absolutely adapted their businesses during this crisis that we're in, and they've thought outside the square, and they've kept trading. They've changed some ways how they do things to maximise income. And I also say a really big thank you to the federal government for the job seeker, because I think that's kept a lot of small businesses afloat and made sure that the employees still had jobs to come back to. We've sort of taken a few initiatives, the council, in putting some fact sheets up there, and with our environmental health officers offering support, going out to, say, restaurants, beauty salons, tattoo parlours, things like that, and even tourist accommodation, to talk them through how they should do things going through this crisis, and how to continue their business while we've still got restrictions happening.
Lovely. So obviously it's big times. You're very busy. We don't want to take up too much more of your time. I do want to thank you for joining us today. My final question to you is just to learn a little bit more about who you are. I'm going to actually break the question into two. I'm going to ask you, what are you most looking forward to returning to as restrictions ease? And do you have a sort of coffee shop on the Southern Gold Coast, your favourite coffee? Where is that? Where would you recommend going?
Okay. Well, I live at Cr, so I support all sorts. I love tiramisu as well. So there's two. Right in Cr, absolutely love. But at Tugun, I do go through drive-through Daraffas, and that's and they're fantastic. I'm one of their best customers. So I actually am missing the interaction in coffee shops to be able to sit down and talk to people, because we're all keeping within our little bubbles at the moment, which is what we have to do, and I get that. And you know, there was a time where we just were doing takeaways, and I think everybody had to cope with that. I mean, it's not much to cope with when you're thinking what's happening in globally, but yeah, I think Kira's still got the best coffee shops. I'm also missing the day-to-day interaction with residents and community groups in schools. And like, we go to a lot of functions, we do a lot of meetings with community groups, and we can't do that at the moment. And that gives you an idea of, you know, sort of what's happening in your division, what you need to be concentrating on. And I think that some of the community groups are really hurting with that as well. On a personal level, I'm actually, I've got one daughter who lives on the coast, and I've got two that live off the coast. One's overseas in Canada. So I don't know when I'll get to see her, because Canada's locked down as we are. Our borders, international borders, I think will take a little while to come back. One of my daughters lives in Perth, so of course our borders are shut, and WA's borders are shut. She's got my 8-month-old grandson, who I'm longing to see again. It's been 6 months since I've seen him, and he thinks his grandmother's a mobile phone. We do so many FaceTime. But yeah, I mean, I think on the whole, those sort of things, you know, you really just have to really be more concerned with the elderly and their health, and with COVID-19. But I can say that I think that we seem to be winning here, especially in Queensland, and I think we've done extremely well. I am concerned about our the economic impact on the Gold Coast. So it'll be great to see those borders open. I'm hoping it's going to be that 10th of July.
Yeah. Well, I think we all are sort of waiting with bated breath, fingers crossed, that we can reopen on the 10th of July. Councillor, finally, is there anything you would like to say about the city budget that's been adopted? Any message you want to get out there, or something you want to say to small business?
Well, I think that the council still has a role to play, supporting small business, you know, in a smaller way rather than the state or federal government. But I think that the more that we can do to help customers get back into your business, to put extra money in their pockets, give them some relief so they have more money to spend at the businesses, I think that's the way to go. That's our role, and certainly supporting business. As I say, I come from a business background. I've been a Chamber of Commerce president for a long time. I love our events, and can I say that we're working very hard on the Southern Gold Coast to make sure that we get all the events back. And not only the big music events like Cooley Rocks On, we're talking about those sporting events like the WSL surfing comp, the volleyball, international volleyball, the Queensland state life-saving titles, all those things that we had in Southern Gold Coast, we need them back to help business get ahead. So that's where we're aiming.
Absolutely. Well, Councillor, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been an absolute pleasure sitting with you. Hopefully, as you head into your recess now, you can enjoy a nice break.
Okay. Thanks, Zac.
Thank you so much for joining us today. For those who have tuned in, please don't forget to like our Facebook page, share this video with your friends, or start a discussion below about what you think about the Gold Coast City Council budget for this coming financial year. Of course, if you want to stay connected with what's happening on the Southern Gold Coast, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter via our website. You can also jump on and join as a member of the Greater Southern Gold Coast Chamber of Commerce. A great way for you to be a part and connected with the Southern Gold Coast business community. You can do that via our website, and we would absolutely love to have you. Until the next episode, thanks for watching.